Hello, and welcome back to the epic saga that is my two-part Ween episode. Last week we covered my own personal favorite Ween, right up through Chocolate and Cheese. This week we're going to handle the rest of their discography. And Ween at this point are a much more professional unit than they were during their early years. So please join me for part 2 of a deep dive on Ween. Do I look exhausted? If you're enjoying the content I bring you from week to week and would like to help support the show, please consider joining my Patreon. It's at patreon.com/popculturegraveyard. And thanks. One of the things I really love about Ween is what a great partnership it is, with Gene Ween as the tortured artist and Dean Ween as the happy-go-lucky fisherman. And the two balance each other out perfectly. And sometimes they're perfectly in sync, as they are on 1996's 12 Golden Country Greats. I can't keep holding up CDs. It's going to get cumbersome. The funniest thing about 12 Golden Country Greats is that it contains only 10 songs. They had 12 songs ready to go, but they left off I Got No Dark Side and So Long Jerry at the 11th hour when it was time to put out the album. So you get 10 songs. Funnily enough, I did not enjoy this album at all, and yet I saw them twice on this tour. Here is my ticket. This is one of the shows I caught. The album was released shortly before I saw them, and I have to admit, I thought the cover was a joke. I did not realize it housed an album full of country music until I saw them live. My routine for live shows is always the same. I go to see the band live, and then I buy the album. Like Frank Costanza, I like to go in fresh. So when I walked into the venue, and I saw pedal steel guitars, banjo, and other country identifying things, I said, uh-oh. Well, it turns out the concert was great. They played the entire country album, front to back. They left the stage, and after a while it became clear they didn't intend to come back out. So we screamed and screamed and screamed because we all felt cheated, and they came out and did a whole set of Ween songs that could accommodate the country guys. So we still weren't thrilled, but it made for some unique renditions of songs. Anyway, long story short, I was not a big fan of this album. I have to say though, 26 years after its release, I can finally appreciate this album. Whether you enjoy country or not, this is a pleasant, easy listening album with a hint of humor. And the performances on the LP are stellar, featuring a host of Nashville pros, many of which performed with the likes of Elvis Presley, including the Jordanaires. I don't know if any original Jordanaires were still alive at the time, but nonetheless, my favorite songs on this album are not only easy on the ears, but are the only ones I feel would fit on any other Ween album as pleasant diversions. There's Japanese Cowboy, and I'm going to put a link below to charming real-life Japanese Cowboys. Powdered Blue, which features a sample from the greatest himself, Muhammad Ali. A very catchy tune called You Were the Fool, and the lethargic track Fluffy, which is a fun and funny Old Yeller meets Inertia album ender. And Fluffy almost makes this whole damn experiment worth it. Almost. Seriously, if Fluffy had been the closing track on any other Ween album, I believe Ween fans would scream for it at concerts to this very day. In 1997, the band released The Mollusk. I said I wasn't going to hold these up. Incidentally, this is my promo copy CD I got back when it came out, and it sounds phenomenal. It is not one of those lousy brick-walled CDs that you sometimes see. It sounds so good, in fact, that I don't feel the need to get this album on vinyl, especially since outside of the original on Mushroom Records, pressings of this album are uniformly lackluster. This is obviously a nautical-themed album, and they pull it off wonderfully, while most of it is a concept album. LP opener Dancing in the Show Tonight is a demonic reworking of Are My Ears On Straight, a far sweeter children's song from 1953. And it's a rather jarring introduction to this album. Also, unless tonight's show is happening on a cruise ship, it's not a nautical message. The song The Mollusk has amazing synth work, totally capturing the feeling of being underwater. A tale of a boy who finds a mollusk, which as you can see on the cover, isn't your daddy's mollusk. The lyrics are as playful as ever, featuring, according to the boy, a mollusk who is able to speaketh of the Trinity, which I always take to mean God, Ween, Satan, the Holy Trinity of the Boognish. See part 1 of this episode. This song really speaks to the wonderment of childhood, where you collect and assign deep feelings to primitive life forms. I honestly think this is one of the sweetest songs on this album. I'll Be Your Johnny on the Spot is old school Ween, allowing Dean to shred at breakneck speed over a balls-to-the-wall drum machine accompaniment, all while kitchen sink lyrics paint a funky pastiche. Now, I don't want to make it seem like all Ween lyrics are about dropping acid, but I'm pretty sure Mutilated Lips is about dropping acid. My favorite lyrics in the song are when they rhyme sassy frassy lassie with the skull of Haile Selassie, after which they even tag it with the Rastafarian I. Playful as hell. I'm not a fan of the Blarney Stone. We don't want the Irish, but it's a sea shanty, and as such, it definitely helps continue the album's theme. It's Gonna Be Alright is the kind of track Ween seems to drop on every album, where they quit being playful and deliver one perfect, beautiful, earnest love song. The Golden Eel is one of my favorite tracks on this album, and I feel it's got that same feeling as the Mollusk, where an otherwise mundane sea creature is imbued with all these magical properties. Though in this case, I feel the narrator's mind is altered as he has a psychedelic epiphany while watching an eel. Cold Blows the Wind is as desolate and desperate as The Golden Eel is bombastic and foreboding. It's a reworking of The Unquiet Grave, which is a traditional song about how intense grieving for a deceased loved one might actually disturb their eternal peace. Buckingham Green has that faux ancient text storytelling that really tickles me. Once Jeaner announces, "Summon the Queen," I am hooked. The song also features one of the best musical build-ups on the album, increasing to a Spinal Tap-like crescendo that's almost deafening. Ocean Man is such a short song, but it's brilliant. And it really encapsulates the watery theme of this album better than any other song on it. You probably already know this unrelentingly upbeat song as either the closer for the SpongeBob movie or possibly from a Honda Civic commercial. While we're at it, you might also know that this entire album was actually an inspiration for Steven Hillenburg to create the beloved SpongeBob SquarePants cartoon. I believe the song Waving My Dick in the Wind, yes, that is the title, is about the loneliness of being on tour, many nights and miles away from your loved one. The Jimmy Wilson that is mentioned in the song simply refers to a member of Ween, who tend to use the term as anyone who happens to be performing on stage with them. Diener can be Jimmy, as can Gene, Claude, Dave, and anyone else who plays with them. Big Jim, indeed. I love the voice Jeaner is using on the track She Wanted to Leave. To me, this endearing track is Ween's She's Leaving Home, if you'll excuse a Beatles reference, or even if you won't. The reprise listed at the end of She Wanted to Leave is not connected to She Wanted to Leave, though it looks that way. It's actually a ghostly reprise of the LP opener Dancing in the Show Tonight, because I guess we needed that. This is often seen as Ween's masterpiece, and I must say I don't exactly agree. I feel it has a few of their best songs. But if someone put a gun to my head and for some reason asked what Ween's masterpiece was, I'd have to say Chocolate and Cheese. That said, The Mollusk is a great album. In 2000, the band released White Pepper. This album was released on May 2nd, 2000. I saw them May 26th, 2000, and I was high as fuck. Ironically, this show, during which I was hovering high above my own body, is somehow one of only 2 tickets I held on to from over a dozen times seeing Ween. This is not my favorite Ween LP. But the older I get, the more I enjoy it. And that's a real refrain with their later era work. Album opener Exactly Where I'm At is one of those songs where I feel like Ween is my Pink Floyd. That said, Stay Forever is one of Ween's greatest love songs. Pandy Fackler is supposedly influenced by Steely Dan and other music of its ilk. But that's not what I hear. To me, Pandy Fackler sounds like it was assembled by artificial intelligence, who was instructed to synthesize all popular music into one finely constructed pop song. And it came up with this weirdness. Conversely, The Grove has a heavy, crunchy sound that is just what's needed after Pandy Fackler. The Grove is the track I'd play for anyone that asks me about this album. If The Grove grabs you, this LP will work for you. The whiplash you'll get coming out of the Grove and into the Zen-like flutes of Chi is typical of this album, which is a real car crash of different styles. Flutes of Chi, by the way, is very easy on the ears, so if that's the kind of Ween you like, that track is for you. Stroker Ace is a balls-to-the-wall rocker that even the late Burt Reynolds would appreciate. Yes, even today. Ice Castles is a really pretty musical interlude that almost sounds like an Elizabethan wedding march being played by Devo. In Falling Out, Gene sings of a broken friendship over what sounds like a countrified version of Secret Agent Man. Back to Bassum is a sleepy dirge with some really killer electronic touches. Up next is Bananas and Blow. It's what's for dinner. Song titles don't get more descriptive than that. The kettle drum on Bananas and Blow conjures up the tropical good life when you're stuck in a cabana living on bananas and blow, which was probably the band members' idea of heaven on earth at the time. The track Even If You Don't has a wonderful stagger step construction that really punches home this tale of a caregiver to a monster of some sort. Drug addict, sociopath, spawn of Satan, all of the above, whom the song's narrator loves unconditionally, though all evidence proves he shouldn't. She's Your Baby is a lovely way to end this album, with lyrics as sweet as the music it's paired with. All in all, this is an extremely polished album for Ween, which is what's great and not so great about it. Put it this way, if the demos for this album ever drop, sign me up. I'm looking at you, Diener. In 2003, Ween released Quebec, the album that almost broke up Ween. Gene was going through a heartbreaking divorce. Dean was battling drugs. Their drummer, Claude Coleman, was in a horrible car accident, which is why this album features several drummers, including Dean. Overall, this is a dark, dark album, which is probably why the best songs on it feature depressing lyrics. Perhaps it's because those are the songs that the members really connected with at the time. Album opener, It's Gonna Be a Long Night, was written by Dean and Claude, which explains why it's a real rocker, and it was sung by their bass player, Dave Drywitz. This track doesn't so much set the table for the songs to come, as much as it throws a bone to Ween fans who need a high-octane tribute to Motorhead. It's Gonna Be a Long Night features the genius line, "You bring the razor blade, I'll bring the speed." Rest in peace, Lemmy. Be aware, this is a very Gene Ween-oriented album, and I believe he was given free rein to sort of work out his problems on it. Case in point, Zoloft. Zoloft, much like the track before it, details sucking something down, in this case the titular mood-leveling drug. I've had some experience with this drug, and the music here somehow, inexplicably, creates the illusion of what it's like to be on Zoloft, where the peaks and valleys are taken away, and all you're left with is a sense of suspended animation. The line, "Don't disguise the nature of your soul," gets me every time. The song Transdermal Celebration, which is a good intro to this album by the way, I believe is about how our body's cells change over totally every 7 years or so, and we all essentially become different people. Beyond that, I think it speaks to human evolution in general, and even a possible life after death being the final transdermal change. Among His Tribe is a dreamy soundscape, extolling the simple yet eternal native way of life. The song So Many People in the Neighborhood seems ripped from an alternate reality where Gene and Dean are a two-headed Mr. Rogers. Except this town's welcome wagon may be demonic. Stay inside. In all honesty, this song would not be out of place on the pod, so I absolutely love it. Tried and True is an easy-on-the-ears track that is vaguely about the eternal soul, and quite definitely about hallucinogens. Happy Colored Marbles is possibly my favorite track on this whole album. Gene himself once referred to this song as being about hell. But what kind of hell? The actual place where people who are not okay get sent to spend their siestas in the sun? Or is it the hell of divorce, where you at first gave your thoughts and feelings to somebody else to put in their pocket during that period where you're together, then you ask for them back when you're ready and done? I don't really know, but it's a very endearing song. Captain is another of my favorites on this album, with dreamy atmosphere to spare, and although it sounds very meta, the song itself seems to be crying out for a return to the more positive songs that came before. The super catchy Chocolate Town strikes me as the Ween equivalent to I'm Waiting for the Man by the Velvet Underground, as both tracks are about buying drugs in the ghetto. In this case, Chocolate Town's Get Your Punk Ass Back to the Dog Show stands in for the Velvet Underground's Hey White Boy, What You Doing Uptown? I Don't Want It speaks of Gene's divorce from Sarah, the woman he wrote every love song for since he was 19, including, obviously, the song Sarah, which is one of my all-time favorite Ween songs. Incidentally, I Don't Want It features a super underrated languid guitar solo from Diener. Palette Cleanser, The Fucked Jam, and tone poem Alkin Road are followed by the Argus, which is an epic that tackles religion and establishes one of the best moods on this album. Finally, Album Ender, If You Could Save Yourself, You'd Save Us All, is yet another breakup song. And this one features probably Gener's most vulnerable vocal performance ever. As listeners, we're left with the feeling of being spent. Conversely, if you'll allow me to jump ahead in time, I want to take you to 2011 briefly, when in September of that year, Dean posted on Facebook and uploaded close to 30 demo versions of songs that did and didn't make the Quebec album. For the rest of this week's episode, please join my Patreon at patreon.com/popculturegraveyard or click above for more free content.